Imagine that the rotation of the Earth will stop one day, and tomorrow will no longer come. Life will never be the same again. Normally, our planet rotates every 24 hours at a speed of 1040 miles per hour. It's faster than the speed of sound. We don't feel it while it's spinning, but we will feel it when the Earth suddenly stops. All people, houses, cars, ships, roads, trees, animals, the topsoil, everything that is not attached to bedrock, will fly away to the east. Hurricanes and tsunamis will appear. Endless today brings huge global earthquakes, and volcanoes will wake up and start erupting, threatening to destroy everything. After the global shutdown, the water on Earth united into two oceans, the North and the South, and all the continents became one, connected at the equator. Now there will be eternal day on one side of the planet, eternal night on the other. Unbearable heat is replaced by terrible cold. On this side of the planet, all nature freezes over, and the night never ends. It will be very difficult to move around and get food. There will be nothing but desert on the bright side of the planet. The temperature is so high that it is impossible to farm here. But there is one area. Ideal living conditions have been created on the border between the hot and cold halves. Places where you can watch an endless sunset or sunrise. The biorhythms of all surviving creatures will be disrupted due to a long bright day and a long dark night. This will affect your psychological and physical development. Life in this zone will not be better for a long time. The temperature drops very quickly and it gets colder and darker outside. This is because the Earth is slowly rotating around the sun and the boundaries are shifting. The survivors will have to constantly move to stay in this area. The shape of the Earth will change and will become perfectly round. The world's oceans are changing again. Floods are inevitable. The problems will not end there. The old magnetic field worked due to the rotation of the Earth, protected us from solar winds, ultraviolet radiation, and radiation from the depths of space. Now he's gone. Without it, existence on the surface of the planet is impossible. The only way to survive is to go underground. People will have to dig tunnels, build underground cities, and go to the surface only in special protective suits. But there's nothing left. No plants, no trees, no animals. Survivors will have to set up water purification, electricity generation, air filtration, and adapt plants and animals to life without the sun. At first, people will eat mushrooms. Things could have been even worse if the Earth had stopped completely. If the Earth stops orbiting the sun's gravity will pull our planet so fast that people won't have time to evacuate. Normally, our planet's rotation around the sun is like riding a fast merry-go-round. You can't get close to the center because of the high speed. In this case, there is no hiding underground. Well, I hope humanity will never see this scenario and we will continue to spin on our cozy blue ball.
So get this, the Earth acquires 40,000 tons of mass every single year. More and more people are being born, new buildings and structures. You might think that's something that adds mass, but nope, since it's created out of existing matter on the Earth, it's actually dust falling from space to our planet. That dust consists of vestiges coming from our solar system, like space bodies that never managed to form into a planet, or asteroids and meteors that fell apart on their way and now drifting around. Our planet is there like a giant vacuum cleaner that pulls in all those particles of dust powered by gravity. So yes, Earth gains weight, but some calculations also say the entire planet, including the atmosphere and the sea, is losing around 50,000 metric tons of its mass annually. Gases like hydrogen and helium are within our planet's atmosphere, but they're so light gravity can't retain them there. So huge amounts of those gases escape our planet every year, 6 pounds of hydrogen every second. Sounds like a lot, but the Earth is really heavy, so it would take trillions of years for all the hydrogen to escape our atmosphere. Also, the planet's core is like some sort of big nuclear reactor. It runs all the time, so it gradually loses energy, which means it's losing mass too. Our planet is not a perfectly shaped sphere, it's more like a squashed one. As it spins, gravity is directed toward the Earth's center, while a centrifugal force goes outward. Earth has a tilted axis, so centrifugal force doesn't exactly oppose gravity. Also, gravity pushes those extra masses of Earth and water up at the equator into a bulge. Earth also has a waistline, 24,900 miles. You weigh more standing at one of the poles than at the equator. Although, for weight loss, Pluto comes as the best option. A 150-pound person would weigh around 10 pounds there. Avoid Jupiter, the same person would weigh over 350 pounds there. Our planet is all green and blue now, but chances are it used to be purple. Scientists think ancient microbes might have used some other molecule to harness the sunlight instead of chlorophyll that gives plants their green color. That molecule possibly colored the living organisms into a more violet shade. The Earth is electric. Just one stroke of lightning can heat the air to over 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which causes the air to rapidly expand. That same ballooning air makes a shock wave we know as thunder. 6,000 lightning flashes appear all over the planet every minute, and the longest one occurred in the sky above Brazil, 440 miles long. Newer studies found out that the Earth's core is as hot as the Sun's surface, over 9,300 degrees. The driest spot we have is the Atacama Desert of Peru and Chile. The center of Atacama has spots where we've never recorded any rain. The coldest place is naturally Antarctica, where winter temperatures can go down to minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. No thanks. It's also the biggest desert we have on Earth. We imagine deserts as endless, sandy, and insanely hot areas, but there are coastal, subtropical, and polar deserts. They all have windswept and barren lands, which makes them very difficult for animals and plants to inhabit. The Pacific Ocean is the Earth's biggest ocean basin, which covers a huge area of almost 80 million square miles. The Pacific contains over half of the free water on our planet, and is so big all of our continents could fit there. Earth used to have 2 moons, or at least that's something scientists believe. That second one was almost 3 times smaller than the one we have today, and may have orbited our planet before it slammed into the bigger one. This clash may be an explanation of why the 2 sides of the moon we're left with is not equal. And there are moonquakes going on. It looks pretty inactive from our perspective, but the ground there is definitely shaking, although less than on Earth. Moonquakes shake at great depths, especially midway between the lunar center and its surface. To get to the longest mountain chain, we have to look way down under the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. It's a chain of volcanoes that goes about 18,000 feet above the bottom and spans over 40,000 miles. We have a magnificent planet, more than 4.5 billion years old, which makes it 10,000 times older than humans. But it's not the same as it was in the beginning. The ground we walk on is recycled. Earth has its cycle. Magma from the depths of our planet comes up and hardens into rocky matter. Tectonic movements brings the rock to the surface, where erosion happens. That's a process where wind, water, and other natural forces break apart rock and changes it. The small pieces get buried, deposited, and compacted into sedimentary rocks, like sandstone. If these rocks are buried deep enough, they get cooked and transformed into magma. So the whole cycle repeats all over again. We got used to seeing lava and ash coming out of volcanoes, but some of them even produce their own flashes of lightning. In 2020, the Taal volcano, which is around 40 miles away from the Philippines' capital, Manila, started blasting smoke and ash pretty high into the air. Inside its ash column, small pieces were colliding and then producing lightning flashes people could see scattering across the sky. Lakes can go crazy and explode too. Nios, Manoon, and Kivu are 3 lakes that sit above volcanoes. Since there's magma under their surface, there's carbon dioxide released into the lakes, which leads to a deep gas layer above the lake bed. It's pretty rare, but carbon dioxide can suddenly erupt from the lake and form an unpleasant gas cloud, similar to something a volcano does. 70% of our planet's surface is covered in oceans, but we've only explored 5% of them. And around 300 million years ago, I wasn't around then, we only had one massive supercontinent called Pangaea, with one huge sea, Panthalassa. Surprisingly, coral reefs are the biggest living structures. They consist of small coral polyps, but together they make a true community of organisms and a very important part of Earth's ecosystem. Some coral structures can even be seen from space. The Earth's surface is not evenly shaped, which means mass is uneven too. That way, gravity is not the same in all spots on Earth. There's a mysterious anomaly in the Hudson Bay of Canada. The gravity there is lower than in other regions surrounding this area, and scientists believe it's because of melted glaciers. During the last ice age, that region was covered in ice, which is now long gone and melted. But the planet hasn't completely recovered from the icy burden. Gravity over any area is proportional to its mass. The glacier left an imprint that pushed aside a part of the planet's mass, which is one of the reasons why the gravity is weaker in that area. Some bugs get nastier when in space, without gravity. Studies showed some bacteria, like Salmonella, can make worse damage in space because there's something in the lack of gravity that makes them tougher and changes their activity. The days on Earth are slowly getting longer. When the planet was formed, days were about 6 hours long and gradually got longer. 620 million years ago, a day lasted 22 hours. Today, we have 24 hours, but it's increasing by around 1.7 milliseconds every century. This happens because of the Moon. It's slowing down our planet's rotation with the tides it helps create. When the Earth is spinning, tidal ocean bulges are pulled a little bit ahead of the Moon-Earth axis. That makes some sort of force that slows down the rotation of our planet, which is how our days are getting longer, but really slowly. We'll have to stick to our 24-hour schedule for a very, very long time. Earth's core certainly seems to be far away from us, but the distance is not that big, 1,800 miles. That's shorter than Route 66. The strongest earthquake we ever had was in Chile, a magnitude 9.5. If an earthquake ever reached magnitude 12, it could split our planet in half. Also, if there's an earthquake happening, it can hit more than 400 miles under the surface, which is why people on the other side of the planet can literally feel that. Our planet has around 100 million times more individual viruses than there are stars in the universe. Clouds are not some fluffy things whose shapes we sometimes like to watch. They actually help regulate the temperature of Earth. If we could pull out all water droplets in clouds and bring them to the surface, that would cover the planet with a liquid film as thick as a human hair. And yet, such a small amount of water brings enough differences with the weather and climate. Our planet would be 13 degrees hotter if it weren't for clouds.
Is that Earth you can see at a distance? Right. Just look at it, floating in space, hanging out with its planet buddies. You spot orange-red Mars and Jupiter with its asteroid belt. Even tiny Pluto is there. All these planets keep their distance from each other, moving along in their own orbits. They're not very social, you see. But that's a good thing. It would cause nothing but trouble if they started to bump into each other. But even though there are others, Earth is the only planet we know that has life. And we've even figured out why. It's because it was lucky enough to appear in the best spot in our solar system, in the Goldilocks zone. Scientists say the key ingredient for life is water. But, well, there's water on Mercury. This planet has deposits of water ice at its south and north poles, but only because those places never see the light. Everywhere else, water simply evaporates from the surface of the planet. Mercury is way too close to the sun. Pluto has some water too. Astronomers even think the dwarf planet might be up to 30% water, but it's frozen. Unlike Mercury, Pluto's too far away from the sun, which is why all its water is in the form of ice. But Earth hovers in a perfect spot called the habitable zone. It has the right temperature for the water to remain liquid and for all forms of life to flourish. But what if Earth was the only planet in the solar system? No Mars, no Jupiter, no Mercury, no Venus. Things might have turned out a little different than what we're used to. Remember that massive asteroid that hit the Earth around 66 million years ago? Well, without Jupiter and its asteroid belt, our planet would be constantly hit by meteorites and asteroids. and some of them would be just as big as the one that caused all that sorrow to the dinosaurs. These rocky fellas would be roaming around in space with no one and nothing to stop them. And if Earth was the only planet out there, it would also be their only target. But that's not all. Look at all this huge space Earth would have all to itself. It means our planet would have an opportunity to travel a bit. It could even choose to leave the Goldilocks zone. But then, would life on the planet still be the same? So let's say Earth started drifting away from the sun. Then, it'd soon get too cold on the planet. Picture a place where the sun doesn't shine anymore. Dark, cold, covered in ice and snow all year round. That would be our Earth if it traveled further from the sun. If this happened, our cities would start to look very different. Right now, Earth is full of life. Come to any park and you'll see green trees and grass everywhere. There will be people walking, sitting on the benches, enjoying the sun. You'll definitely spot someone playing soccer or frisbee. On the park's lawns, there will be people resting on their blankets, soaking up the sun. A few people will be reading their books, looking relaxed and happy. Back in space, you see Earth again. The planet is still in its favorite spot. That's why life is so beautiful down there. But wait, is it moving? Our planet is definitely further from the sun now. Has it changed things for Earth? It actually looks a bit bluer now. Down there, famous golden California is not so golden anymore. It's gloomy and dark, much like all other places on Earth. New York is covered in ice. Even in the hottest places, the temperatures are now below freezing, including tropical destinations like the Bahamas. After a while, liquid water turns into ice. The oceans now look like giant skating rinks, except there's no one to skate there since the planet has become way too cold to support life. Okay, then what if, instead of drifting further away from the sun, Earth moved closer, with people still aboard? Whoa, the temperatures here are crazy, too hot to handle. The climate would be getting hotter and hotter. Natural disasters would start to occur more often. Hurricanes and floods would be a common thing on Earth now. And pretty soon, the planet would get too hot for people to handle. Particles from the sun would become a serious threat. The atmosphere would be struggling to protect Earth from solar radiation. But this shield would be growing weaker. Liquid water would be nowhere to be found anymore, maybe only in underground deposits. Earth would look a bit like Mars, all rocky and barren. The Mississippi River would dry up and leave behind a huge canyon. All the oceans would be gone too. At the moment, the Mariana Trench is the deepest known place on Earth. It's incredibly hard to reach its bottom because of the immense water pressure there. But without water, trips to the deepest spot on Earth would be possible. It would help people uncover some more of Earth's secrets. If people still lived on the dry and scorching hot planet, that is. In other words, if someone was to explore Earth after the planet had moved closer to the sun, everything would be completely different. But what if Earth didn't move at all and everything remained the same? The only difference, there would be no other planets around us. It would change the way people explore space. Sure, there would still be navigation, communication, and weather satellites, and maybe space telescopes. But there wouldn't be any other space objects close enough for people to send missions there. This would affect the future too. If people had no desire or opportunity to go to space, they would invest in their home planet. They would build sky cities instead of looking for other planets to colonize. These days, if you get a state-of-the-art telescope, you'll see distant stars and other planets. The better the telescope, the more detail there is for you to see. But with no other planets out there, the picture of space wouldn't be so exciting. Stars would still be visible, and you might even spot a meteorite or two. And you'd definitely see the moon, but that's about it. Space agencies would mostly be focused on keeping Earth secure, mainly because asteroids would become frequent visitors. To protect the planet, scientists would have to figure out ways to get rid of them. Like a massive laser beam. When turned on, it could go all the way to the moon and even further. Instead of building rockets to explore space, SpaceX and NASA would be in the asteroid clearing business. People wouldn't even think of trying to contact other civilizations. If there were no planets similar to Earth, they would consider it a wasted effort. This means no radio signals being constantly sent out to space. A curious fact, in February of 2008, the Beatles song Across the Universe was beamed into deep space. It was done to celebrate both the song's 40th anniversary and NASA's 50th anniversary. In the 70s, people also sent a radio signal out into space. It contained some basic information about humans and the solar system. But it was more a feat of strength for technology than an attempt to contact any alien buddies we might have. With no planets around, the world of sci-fi would change too. There would be no more movies about deep space exploration. No massive spaceships and rockets would appear on the big screen. And since there would be no expeditions to other planets, no rovers would be sent to space to look for signs of life and explore new worlds, like what the rovers on Mars are doing right now. People would concentrate more on their own planet. For example, they would begin to explore its insides. New technologies would allow us to dig much, much deeper, all the way through Earth's crust and further. And doesn't a trip to the planet's core sound exciting? Instead of astronauts, there would be explorers of the deep underground. New drilling technologies would be invented to make the digging process more effective. There would be new types of vehicles. They would be created to drill and protect explorers from the enormous underground pressure. While exploring the world under the planet's surface, people would likely find absolutely new life forms. Those would be mysterious creatures that evolved to survive in the dark, in extreme temperatures, and with barely any food. It certainly helped people understand more about their home planet.